Hello, and welcome to another Tastic Wednesday activity at the Mechanical Library. I'm Noah, and today we're going to be making a paper airplane launcher. Now, I'm a little under the weather today, so bear with me, but we're going to have a lot of fun today, and let's get to it. So first off, you're going to need your materials. So make sure that you have your paper that comes in the bag, your paper clips that should come in the bag, your rubber bands, and your wooden sticks. And then also you're going to need some tape or a stapler, either will do, and just a pen or a pencil. And then you want an open area where you can launch your paper airplanes, long hallway, your living room, the backyard, whatever you want to do. So the first step for our paper airplane launcher is to make a paper airplane. So let's do that. In your bag, you should have gotten a sheet that has 4 different example paper airplanes, but you can do whatever style you want if you come up with your own or if you find one online that you like. But these are just some 4 good paper airplane templates. I'm going to go through 2 of them, and you can follow through, or if you want to do the other 2 that I don't show you. So first, we're going to do the intermediate plane. So you're going to start out with a fold halfway across, hot dog style, as we like to call it. You're going to press down that crease, use your nail to really get it nice and creased down, and then you're going to open it back up and fold these corners in to the center. So if you see your center crease, fold in to that crease with these corners. Go and hold that and get your crease down, and the same thing on the other side. So these should line up nice and tight. Make a triangle at the front. This is going to be the front of our airplane. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing again, but with these corners down, folding in here. So we're going to line up this edge with this edge here. So we're going to take it and kind of curve it in and fold it down just like that. You can see it, and then I will press down and get the crease. There you go. All right. You can do that for the other side. The exact same thing. All right. Now, none of this has to be super exact, but the better you can get it to be equal on both sides, the better the plane will fly. So if you can try and get it perfectly equal, that will make your plane fly so much better. All right, there we go. Okay, so next what we're going to do is face it away from us, and we're going to flip it like that and fold it the opposite direction that we folded it before. So now our little flaps are on the outside. So it should be facing away from you, just like this, with the point there, and then you'll take this edge and fold it down over the edge with about maybe an inch or so, maybe a little bit more. It doesn't have to be exact. You're going to take this flap here and fold it further over, so there's it hangs off the edge of it a little bit. But you want this to be a straight line across, so you want your fold to be the same at the same level, parallel to your fold. So do that. And the way to figure that out is if you line up this back edge, you don't want that edge to be off like that or like that. You don't want to see that corner. But if you line up that back edge just like that, that will give you a more parallel crease. There we go, lined up. All right, perfect. And so there, that crease it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but then you're gonna flip it over and fold the exact same way. So just line up that crease with your other one and get that to be the exact same. We want it to be the exact same so each side is going to be balanced. All right, there we go. And now you can fold these out and you've got your airplane. Okay, airplane number 1. Number 2 is the advanced airplane. Now, I'm not going to go through the beginner one because that one's pretty self-explanatory and easy, and the stunt plane is pretty advanced, but it's not too hard, and it's going to do some fun stuff, but not really go super far. So I'm just going to do ones that I think are going to go super far, and we're going to have some fun with. I'm going to build the other two and show you, but I'm not going to show you how to build them. Alright, so the advanced one, we're going to start out just the same way that we did before, with our hot dog style fold. And then, oh, make sure you got the corners lined up. There we go. Alright. Alright, fold it down on that crease. Perfect. Okay. Then, I'm gonna open it up and fold it down just like we did before along that middle line. There we go. Alright. Line it up. Easy peasy, we've done this before. Alright. So now what we're going to do is actually take this top part and fold it down. I'll face it to you. You're going to fold it down just like that. So you want this corner to crease right at the edge of your triangle. So there we go. Line that up. Fold it in. Alright. Then you're going to make that crease there. Now we're going to flip it over onto its side. And make sure that your triangle is facing away from you and the empty part of your paper is facing towards you. So you're going to take the corners that are away from you and fold them back in just like you did before, but you should see the line coming in from our previous fold. If you don't see that, you got to flip around. So you want to see that. Alright. Then we'll just do the same thing that we did. Alright. Fold that down. And fold that down. Alright, make those creases nice and easy. Alright. So, now that we have this, we're going to do what we did before and fold it kind of back up together like that. And then we're going to do just the same thing that we did. So we're going to have it facing away from us. And we're going to take our wing and fold it down with about an inch left and try and line up that edge. Get it perfectly straight. All right. So you want that to come down just like that and then flip it around. Maybe give it a good old crease with your nail. Make it really tight crease. Fold this one down as well. All right, here we go. There's our other plane. And then now you guys can go make the rest of yours. Here, I'll flip this up for you. You guys can make the rest of yours. Whether you want to make more of these, make some adjustments to the ones that you made, or make some beginner ones, the stunt plane, or whatever you want. A big one with a ton of paper, try some different paper. It's up to you. All right, so once you have your arsenal of paper airplanes here, your stunt plane, your advanced plane, your intermediate plane, your basic plane, your own plane, whatever you got, I want you to start out by just throwing it with your arm. So just take it normally how you would and just launch it. See how far this one will go. Oh, all right, and just launch it with your whole arm. And then next, what I want you to do is once you've done that with all your planes, see kind of how, maybe try it a couple times, see what the best motion is. If you want to use a shoulder, like a football, or kind of like a frisbee or something, it's up to you. You just want to keep trying to see what will work best, and then try it maybe just with your wrist. So try to keep your elbow and shoulder still, and just toss it with your wrist like that and see if you can get some cool motion with that. So what we're next going to do is use some basic catapults to launch our paper airplane. So to start out, we're going to have to put a little, use our paper clips and attach it, and see if you can see it, at the end of our paper airplane. So what you're going to have to do is take your airplane, and you're going to take the paper clip, and you want the little end that bends off. You can just peel that down. If you see that there, gonna peel that down and just stick that in. And then what you can do is use either a stapler or some tape to hold that in nice and tight to make sure that does not come out. So I find a stapler works the best, but sometimes it can be kind of hard to get it right into there. So I'm just going to use some tape for now to hold that paper airplane nice and tight. Sorry, the paper clip nice and tight on the paper airplane. There we go. All right, perfect. So once you have that done, we're going to start out with a super simple paper airplane launcher. So take your pencil and take one of your rubber bands, and what you're going to do is just take it, and we're going to hook our rubber band on the end of it, and we're just going to do a good old launch. All right, so that should have launched it pretty far. And you should try that with all of your paper airplanes, just with this one thing, and it's already miles ahead of my arm. I don't know if you guys have some pretty rocket arms, but for me, that works super well. So go get your rubber bands, and we'll come back. So when you're doing that catapult experiment, think about kind of how it's working and what's happening in that rubber band that's letting it give a bunch of launching force to that paper airplane. Where's that force coming from? And think about how much you had to stretch that rubber band compared to how much you had to move your arm. Didn't you have to move your arm really a couple feet just to get it to go not even as far as moving this 6 inches? So think about how that elasticity snaps it back into place and how that gives it a ton of force to our paper airplane. So now we're going to go into a bit more advanced of a catapult using the sticks you had in your bag. So what you're going to do is really just take it into a little V like this, and we're going to make a catapult out of it. So in this V, you're going to take some tape or some glue. You can even maybe staple it if your stapler is strong enough. I wouldn't suggest it, but we're just going to take some tape and secure this together. Doesn't have to be crazy strong, but we're just going to use some tape to really keep it nice and together, because we're going to have our rubber bands between it, so we don't want it to snap or break or anything. There we go. All right. So once you have this nice and secure, you're going to take one of your rubber bands. Maybe get one of the smaller ones, so it'll fit and be pretty nice and tight and elastic on your catapult. And you're just going to pull it across and set it right on the 2 sticks there. And so then what you're going to do is the same thing that we did before, and you're going to try to hook this on to your rubber band. And if you need, one thing that's nice to do is to put some tape on the rubber band just to keep it in place. Or if you want to cut some notches into here, but be careful with that. Have a parent around if you're ever doing any cutting with wood or anything. But for now, I'm just going to use tape just to hold it on, just so we don't, our rubber band doesn't fall down too far. Just like that. All right. Go. Okay. So you want our rubber band to still be pretty nice and tight, and so when it falls down, it loses some of that strength. So we're going to hook it on and launch it. And so try and see what the difference is between this, and maybe see if you can use pull both strings back or just one string, and if that makes a difference. Or like I said, maybe having it a bit lower and see if you can maybe even get it to fly further, or having it higher up where it's more taut and pull it and see if you can get it to launch even further. So the last final step is to make your own stationary catapult. And you can use a range of materials. You can use wood. I'm going to use Legos for mine, or you can use cardboard. There's some cool examples on the sheet that you're given, but you can use whatever materials you want. If you want to use a Kleenex box or whatever, it's up to you on what materials you want to use. So I'm going to build mine, and I'll come back to you, give you an idea of what you're going to be making, and then we'll talk a bit more about what's going on with how airplanes actually fly. All right, so what I built was a pretty simple catapult here with a rubber band, what I'm going to launch off of up here, and then the rest of it being held tight back here. So this is going to give me nice tight launching point on my paper airplane. So let's see if I can get a good launch. All right, so hook and go. All right, that was fun. So let's think about how this is happening. So when a plane flies, it uses a thing called lift, which is just something that it's really just the pressure under the wings. Here, let me use this as an example. So when a plane is flying, it uses its speed to get this pressure under the wings to lift the wings up, and that's going to lift up the whole plane. And a plane needs enough lift to be able to counteract the gravity that's pulling it down, because planes, even our little paper airplane, is really heavy, and gravity likes to pull it down really quickly. So what it needs is a lot of speed to launch it really fast, and that will give it a lot more lift to lift up the airplane. And while it may not be going directly upwards, what it is doing is still being kept up on kind of the pressure of the air and not being allowed to fall down onto the ground. So this concept of lift and speed and how those kind of work together is really important for creating a really fast and good airplane that will fly for a long time. And there's a lot of physics behind how actual aerophysicists and people who create airplanes figure out the perfect way to make an airplane fly. So we don't need to do a lot of that math. We just can put wings on something, and the rest of it, as long as we launch it with something, will do most of the work for us. So the work that we have to do is give it some speed initially to get that lift. And so when you want to give it speed, you can use your whole arm, and that'll do a lot because you're using a lot of force from your shoulder, your elbow, and your wrist, and you're giving it a lot of speed, and that's just a ton of, it's a big range of motion, and so that's where we get a lot of what's called kinetic energy. And so kinetic energy is really just another word for motion, so energy that's being used to do something. And so the thing that we're doing is pushing all that into this plane. And so we have a lot of potential energy built up, like a spring in our arm here. It's like all built up and ready to go, and then we launch. And so that's all that kinetic energy. So we've got a lot of potential energy. We're waiting for it. That's where potential comes from. It has a lot of potential, and it's waiting to just be unleashed. And so when you unleash that energy with your arm, you're giving it all that potential energy, and the plane is taking it all with it, and that's where it gets its speed, and that's how it flies. And then when it has that speed, again, it gets the lift, and that's why it keeps flying. So with the rubber band, really, we're just giving it a lot of speed and a lot of kinetic energy really quickly. Because the rubber band, if you feel it, it's kind of like a spring, if you think about it, where it can stretch out, and there's a lot of potential energy there, and then it goes back. So there's just a lot of potential energy kept inside a rubber band at any time. So when we stretch it out, we give it a ton of potential energy, and it really, really quickly gives a ton of kinetic energy when you release it. So it's a potential, and then you release, and it flies because it just has all that kinetic energy that gives it its launch motion. And so when you put all that into a paper airplane, you're really just letting it fly with that kinetic energy that you're giving it with the rubber band. And so your arm has a ton of strength, and you will, if you throw it really, really well, you can throw it better than any rubber band. But you don't really have to put a lot of energy into it when you want to launch something with a launcher like this, where you just pull it back a little bit and let it go, and it's pretty simple, and you're going to get pretty similar results with a flick of your wrist. So that's just kind of how a paper airplane flies. And so using that knowledge, try and figure out other ways to build airplanes and paper airplanes to see if you can get it to fly even further. Maybe add bigger wings, or maybe make it a little bit lighter on the bottom and heavier on the top, or heavier in the front and lighter in the back, or vice versa. It's up to you, and you're just going to use your knowledge and skills with engineering to build different catapults, different airplanes, and especially if you have Legos or wood blocks or something that you can kind of mix and match pieces, that's where you're going to get a lot of awesome exploration with how to make paper airplanes fly even further. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have fun with all the different stuff that I've given you, and I'll see you guys next week.